Every mind-bending optical illusion explained. Basal depth. In this image, the red lines on the white background appear lighter, while on the black background they seem darker. The horizontal red lines are actually the same color, but the contrast with the backgrounds creates this illusion. Ehrenstein illusion. Placing a square inside concentric shapes makes its sides appear to curve, resembling a shuriken. Sonder illusion. The diagonal line in the left parallelogram appears longer than the one in the smaller right parallelogram, even though they are the same length. This illusion is caused by the diagonal lines around the blue ones, which create a depth illusion affecting the perceived length of the blue lines. Ller-Lyer effect. Despite their appearance, the two lines are actually the same length. Hermann grid. Illusion. Ghostly gray blobs seem to appear in the white intersections of this grid, but only if you don't directly focus on them. Rubin's vase. This image can be seen as either a vase or two faces looking at each other. It illustrates how our brain interprets ambiguous two-dimensional forms, highlighting the figure-ground distinction. Contrast illusion. The contrast illusion occurs when a stimulus is perceived as having different properties, such as brightness, when presented alongside another stimulus of lesser or greater value. For example, the red dots on the right may appear darker than those on the left, even though they are the same color. The checker shadow illusion demonstrates this effect, where area A seems darker than area B, despite having the same color. Mach bands. Your eyes exaggerate the contrast between edges of slightly different shades of gray when they touch each other, due to the way the brain processes edges. Leaning tower illusion. The tower in the right photo appears to lean more to the right, but it's actually an exact duplicate of the photo on the left. Hollow face illusion. The perception of a concave mask of a face appears as a normal convex face, showing the brain's ability to interpret depth based on prior knowledge. Color constancy. Despite being composed of only light and dark shades of red and white, you can still identify the colors of objects in this photo. This is due to color constancy, which allows us to perceive consistent colors under varying conditions. Kinetic depth effect. This spinning dance can be perceived as spinning in both directions. The lack of visual cues for depth causes this ambiguity. For instance, the dancer's arms may seem to be moving either in the foreground, between her and the viewer, or in the background behind her body. Adding more visual cues helps clarify the direction of her spin. Rotating snakes. Although these circles are stationary, they give the illusion of movement. This effect is largely due to contrast and small involuntary eye movements. Beta movement. This example, used in the famous snake game, creates the perception of movement instead of random circles appearing and disappearing. Thaumatrope phenomenon. Unlike beta movement, this phenomenon doesn't involve the circle moving. Instead, the circles disappear, but the brain still perceives movement. Lilac chaser. In this illusion, staring at the cross triggers 3 steps. First, a gap appears to run around the circle. Then, a green disc replaces the gap and seems to run around the circle of lilac discs. Finally, the lilac discs disappear, and only the green disc appears to move on the gray background. Gravity hill. This is a place where the layout of the surrounding land creates an optical illusion, making a slight downhill slope appear as an uphill slope. An example is when water seems to flow uphill. Ebbinghaus illusion. 2 orange circles are presented, but despite one being surrounded by larger circles and the other by smaller circles, they are actually the same size. Stroboscopic effect. When shown a GIF of a clock hand, viewers perceive it as moving from right to left. However, covering it for short periods reveals the stationary nature of the clock hand. This effect is related to the wagon wheel effect, which causes propellers of helicopters or airplanes to appear stationary, move slowly, or even move backward. Ponzo illusion. The upper line appears longer because our brain interprets the upper part as receding into the distance, similar to how we perceive 2D images as 3D. Poggendorff illusion. In this image, it seems like the blue line continues the black one, but it's actually the red line. This illusion is caused by the pattern's properties and the nature of its borders. Forced perspective. This technique makes an object appear farther away, closer, larger, or smaller than it actually is. Tourists who pose with the Tower of Pisa are using this technique to create the illusion of holding up the leaning tower. Barber pole illusion. The diagonal lines in a barber pole appear to rotate horizontally and do not go up or down. The vertical movement is an optical illusion. Zollner illusion. The lines in this illusion are not perfectly parallel. Removing the shorter lines creates an impression that one end of the longer lines is nearer to the viewer than the other end. Café wall illusion. Although the lines are parallel and straight, they appear sloped due to the contrast between the white and black areas. Changing the colors removes this effect. Wan illusion. The two red lines appear distorted, but they are actually straight. The background lines create the illusion of distortion. Other variations of this illusion include the herring and orbison illusions. Fraser spiral. Also known as a false spiral, this illusion is created by overlapping black arcs that are actually concentric circles, not a spiral. Vertical horizontal illusion. Both lines are the same length, but the vertical line may appear longer due to the surrounding context. Crater illusion. This illusion makes craters or holes appear as mountains or domes. One theory suggests this is because we are used to seeing light from overhead, which affects our perception. Cana triangle. Despite the absence of lines or color changes across the edge, this image creates the impression of a bright white triangle. Some people perceive the illusory triangle as brighter and closer to them than the background. Motion after effect. Focus on the center of this moving image. When I ask you to look away, you'll notice everything around you appearing to zoom and move, almost like a breathing movement. This effect occurs because your eyes try to adjust to the continuous motion, and when you shift your gaze to something stationary, they need time to readapt. Now, look around you. Can you see it? A room. Notice how the man walking inside the room appears small when he moves to the left side, but seems like a giant when he moves to the right. Surprisingly, both sides of the room are the same height. This perception is due to the right side of the room being closer to the camera, creating the illusion of size difference. Flashed face distortion effect. Stare at the center of this cross. The faces on the sides will start to appear deformed and grotesque. This effect, discovered by chance, is not yet fully understood by researchers. Stepping feet illusion. These two buses appear to be moving step by step. However, when the background black and white stripes are removed, the illusion is mostly caused by the contrast between the buses and the background stripes. Silencing effect. Focus on the center of this image where you can see small balls changing color. As the balls start rotating, they appear to keep the same color. However, if you concentrate on them, you'll notice that they are actually changing color similar to when they were stationary. This effect occurs because it's more difficult to perceive changes in color on moving objects. After image. Stare at this image. When I show you a white screen, you'll see a negative after image, which in this case will be cyan on magenta. This phenomenon happens because the chemical activity in your eye's retina continues even after the original stimulus is removed. If you're having trouble seeing it, try blinking rapidly. Color dove illusion. Focus on the 4 dots in the center of this image. This illusion uses a similar mechanism to the after image illusion, but creates existing images like faces. Right now, you should be seeing a picture of Jesus. Impossible object. An impossible object is a 2-dimensional figure that appears to represent a 3-dimensional object but cannot exist in reality. The animation you're seeing is called the Penrose stairs. Other variations include the Penrose triangle, the impossible cube, and the Bivet hybrid image. In this image, you'll see Albert Einstein when viewed from a short distance and Marilyn Monroe when viewed from afar. This occurs because the image combines the low spatial frequencies of one picture with the high spatial frequencies of another. When viewed from a distance, the fine details merge, creating the illusion of Monroe's face.